Hey health seekers, it's Kate Shemirani here, natural nurse in a toxic world, and I am indeed a nurse, a registered nurse on the register. I'm an independent nurse prescriber, 35 years in total, and I'm a personal nutritionist. I still work as a nurse, yes I do, and I also work as a personal nutritionist. So today we're going to talk about this COVID-19 test that celebrities and politicians everywhere are having and telling us indeed that they are positive. That very test is so flawed. It has more flaws than an apartment block, and it has an 80% chance of you having a false positive. And that can have catastrophic consequences with the new laws that are passed. You can be taken from your home and placed in a detention centre based on that 80% false positive. Very scary. So let's go through what that test is. And I'm going to refer to some of my notes because I don't want to miss anything out. You need to share this. Share. And don't forget, they use all these big words so that you don't understand, you the people. I'm a nurse of the people. I don't want to belong to a plandemic or a scandemic. So first of all, the COVID test. I've put a BS there. I think you know what I mean by that. Exosomes. Exosomes are the same as viruses, according to Dr. James Hidroth. Exosomes are the same as viruses. Viruses are exosomes, according to Dr. James Hidroth. He's got so many qualifications after his names. He's an expert in virology, an absolute expert. Now, other people are saying the same. Dr. Kaufman, brilliant. Dr. Shiva, and many other people are saying the same. Many other doctors. So let me just tell you what DNA is. DNA provides a code for cells, for their activities. RNA converts that code into a protein for cell function. So DNA provides a code for your cell. RNA converts that code into a protein for cell function. You need to remember that, guys. I keep wafting these messages that are coming on my screen. Now, all the people that were in Wuhan, remember Wuhan was a test city for 5G. Apparently it wasn't, according to Ofcom, gangsters. Yes, it was. It's well documented. Wuhan was a test city for 5G. Mandatory vaccines came into China in December of 2019 and the 5G in the autumn of 2019. That's another thing to remember. Mandatory vaccines, December of 2019. Don't take my word for it. Go research this. All true. So of those people that were having all these symptoms where they couldn't breathe, they were in a dirty meat market, dead and live animals everywhere. They didn't look at any of that. They took 7 out of the 200 cases, and based on their symptoms that they were having, which was a high temperature, it was problems breathing and coughing, it was a reduction in their lymphocytes, their white cells, and failure to get better after 3 days on antibiotics, the experts diagnosed them with having a virus. So, what did they do? They collected fluid from the alveoli. That's when you breathe in, it goes into your lungs. It's all these little air passages, and it goes down to little sacs, single cell walled sacs, where you get that gas exchange, where your oxygen goes around your body, carbon dioxide comes back and you breathe out, those little sacs. So what they did was, they used a scope and they went into those sacs and they collected some fluid. And they collected other samples, bloods, etc. But they collected the fluid out of those little alveoli, those air sacs. And then what they did with that fluid was they found and separated genetic material. Now, lots of things have got genetic material in it, and it's all in your systemic circulation. Bacteria, everything. So do you see that? That's the first thing. They then sequenced that genetic material. That means they pulled it all in a line and looked at it and looked at the sequence of it. And then they rapidly developed a qualitative PCR detection. That means before they'd even proved a virus, they'd developed a test. Scandemic, plandemic, springing to mind, folks. Now, what you need to do to get a test to test for a virus, you have to purify, clean it up, and visualize the virus. That's my pen. Purify and visualize the virus. They didn't do that. They took the RNA, not the virus, the exosome virus. They took the RNA, and they found that genetic material, and that was it. So let's look at exosome and COVID-19 under a microscope. I'm going to explain what they are. The sizes, going through all the different sizes, are identical. They're the same. The ACE2 receptor on the exosome, ACE2 receptor on the COVID-19, angiotensin converting enzyme. That's what that is. So the sizes, all the different sizes that are used to measure it, same. They've both got that ACE2 receptor. So remember, they haven't purified and visualized the virus. They've gone for the RNA, which is in lots of things, bacteria, etc. Now, the gold standard when you are doing a test, because you don't want a test that's got lots of false positives, the gold standard test, all doctors are trained in that. You should always use the gold standard. So you would take maybe 100 patients who haven't got the virus, the 100 patients who have, and you would use your test against the gold standard so that you're not throwing up loads of fakes. All of your people that are negative, it should be negative. And your ones that are positive, there should be quite a substantial amount that are positive. And then you look at it against the gold standard testing. And that would tell you whether that test's any good, wouldn't it? That's that's trials. Well, none of that was done. There is no gold standard for that test. It wasn't done. No gold standard was done. They just developed that test before they'd proved any virus, because they haven't purified and they haven't visualized a virus. They've taken RNA. Is it sinking in? I hope it is. So no gold standard was done for that COVID test. Now let's just talk a minute about an exosome. You'll look at my rubbish drawing here. Exosomes. I hope you can see this. That's supposed to be a cell, and that's an exosome, and that's supposed to be a skull and crossbone. When toxins are in your body, your cells, they don't want those toxins to go through the cell membrane and into that cell because they'll kill it. So this fantastic body that nature, God created, doesn't make mistakes like that. So what it does, well, it does make mistakes in some things, but it gets rid of it. What it does is those little exosomes, they come out of the cell, right out the cell, and they suck up, like a little sponge, all the toxins. And on them, they have a little lock. And guess what's got the key to match that lock? Your immune cells. So they suck up all the toxins, head off to your immune cells to deal with it. So when you are really toxic, your body releases 2 to 3 specific exosomes any one time to get rid of that, to stop them going in the cell. And then you get better. That's what happens. So when you're sick, you release all your immune cells, go to work, your temperature goes up, fluids, your nose runs, your eyes run, you get a cough, all this happens, sputum. So exosomes are part of your immune system. And exosomes and virus, remember, Dr. James Hidreth, an absolute expert in virology, said that they're the same. In fact, let me read you his exact statement, because it's worth reading. I think it's always good to hear an exact statement from an expert. An expert in virology literature as well. Lots of publications. The virus is fully an exosome in every sense of the word. The virus is fully an exosome in every sense of the word. Now let's look at exosome again. I know you're getting this. Exosome is exactly the same size as the COVID-19, and it has the ACE2 receptor on both of them. They're one and the same, and the test that they did for it didn't look to purify and visualize the virus, no, which would be the exosome. They looked at the RNA. I know you're getting it. So going back here, what would make these exosomes come out of your cells? This is interesting. Toxins. That would be toxic air, toxins in your food, toxins in your environment. That's what you put on your skin. Toxins in the water. Toxins can also be electromagnetic field. Stress and fear. How many people are terrified running around with masks on? And let me just tell you something. These exosomes are so small, they go through your mask, so your mask's pointless. Cancer. Cancer makes exosomes come out. Injuries. Any injuries. Asthma. Immune responses. Infection and diseases all will make the exosomes come out of your cells. And those exosomes are there to stop the toxins going in. If they don't, the toxins go in, your cell dies. So these are part of your immune system. And as Dr. Kaufman stated, he said that although it was a theory, but remember the germ theory, Darwin's theory of evolution. We don't like theories. If they're going to spout it as fact, which is what they do in schools, they then teach you that. Let's hear fact, not theory. But Dr. Kaufman said, when we cough, because these are part of your immune system and they're a good thing, he actually said, would it be that it would then help somebody else? So, let's just go on. There was another centrifugal test done as well in China, which was quite interesting. This test that they did, incidentally, they used the same test that they used to diagnose cancer, lung cancer. There was another test done in China, which was even more interesting. They took the fluid from the lungs, centrifuged it, added cancer cells. They added cancer cells to the fluid that they took out of the lungs of those people that they said had got this virus in Wuhan. They took the fluid, added the cancer cells, centrifuged it, and found the exosomes. Now, hang on a minute. What did we say can release exosomes? Cancer. So let's go back to that test. That test, in another test, another scientific, evidence-based, peer-reviewed, pat ourselves on the back, all these peer-reviewed, big words, they actually said that the test itself had an 80% failure. That means if you have lots of people there that have been in touch with people that have had the virus, 80% of those that test positive would never have the virus. They're never ever going to have this, now we're talking about the COVID-19 virus, they're never actually going to even have it or have any symptoms of it ever, because it's an 80% failure rate. So using the laws and these foolish people that are downloading apps and then rushing off and going, I'm coughing, I've got this, I've got that, and getting tested, and then that's showing up. And of course, everybody's going to test positive. Look at all these things that release exosomes. Fear and stress, toxic environment, all of the EMF, they haven't tested for that yet, but I'm going to do a different video on that. We're all going to test positive. So these people are testing positive and they've got an app on their phone to track where they've been. So it's like the police. The people are policing the people. It's like Nazi Germany. So they've now got it on their phones and it can track everyone that they've been in contact with. Now go back to China and they've got this whole system for facial recognition. So if one person is sick, they can track every single face that that person's come into contact with. Are you getting scared, folks? So the new laws that have all been passed through government, I'm going to do that in a separate video. So now you understand that this test is not testing because they didn't purify and visualize the virus. They took RNA. There's going to be RNA always in your systemic circulation, always. I don't know what to say. So for the surgeon who said using my half-baked science, really, He should know that because he went through medical school and he's one of the top surgeons in the world. And he should know what gold standard is. Also, I'd just like to say at this point, I did actually ask, did he know the trophoblast theory from 1908? Professor John Beard, who was a professor of embryology. He'd never heard of it. That was actually proved, that theory was. I believe it was in 2008 or thereabouts. Every single doctor out there who's ever calling themselves an oncologist should know about Professor John Beard's trophoblast theory. So you see, they can say what they like about me. So folks, I hope that clears it up for you. That test is a test that nobody should be having. And let's just remember who really wants to be the person who is in charge of the mass testing for the entire population of the UK. Tony Blair. Tony Blair himself, the war criminal, convicted of a war criminal, it's not allowed in Kenya, for the illegal wars that killed over 2 million people in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's got blood on his hands. Do you really want him in charge of that mass testing of you? Really? With this flawed test that has 80% false positives that could lead to you being dragged out of your house and your children or your loved ones and put into detention centres. Remember, they don't create laws just to look nice on papers. Those laws are there for 2.5 years. They generally create laws because they're going to use them. So there you are, Natural Nurse in a Toxic World. Get sharing this. It's just over 16 minutes. You can keep watching it till you absolutely understand it. I will also put the link to Dr. Kaufman, Dr. Shiva's. Actually, I don't need to. It's all on my timeline. Come on, folks. Be your best doctors here. Have a good day.